Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'll get into the regular intro here in a moment. I just thought I would put this out there for anybody who knows. If you have a little bit of knowledge or you think you have knowledge, please don't comment. This is for people who have an actual solution to this issue. I'm saying this because people will say things and they don't really know what they're talking about just to be helpful, and that's not helpful. um, So my dog Tulsi, our dog Tulsi, is the bigger, thicker of the two dogs. She's a female. We have a male and a female Papillon. Tulsi's very big, very aggressive. I talk about how she's a stone cold killer. I have all these videos of her killing animals or walking by with baby bunnies in her mouth. Or she's a very sweet dog, but she, big, heavy set dog for a Papillon. And she started to limp about a week ago, and it was on and off. And we stopped taking her for walks, and we tried to get her to rest, and she seemed to get better. And then we noticed that her leg seemed to be maybe bent more than normal, so we decided we had to take her to the vet, maybe get x-rays. And when we did that, the vet, sedated her, and the vet thought that might have what would be the dog equivalent of an ACL tear in her knee. It was around the joint of her knee, and I noticed this whenever we touched around the joint of her knee. She would yelp and become, whatever. And so she thought she needed to examine her, but she was so, she doesn't like to be, she's tough to groom. Like, she's not a biter, but she's a wriggler, and, she just wasn't having it. So she wanted to put her under anesthesia, and then take an x-ray, and then check out her joint and everything else. And so she said, she called back about, had an hour later or whatever, and said that she did have the tear in this ligament, like a teared anterior cruciate or MCL or whatever, for dogs, which is, I guess, somewhat common. And there was a couple of options. They have a trial study now that you can get this brace for free. The brace is something that will hold the leg in place, and it's supposed to work. She said that she knew of it. A few people used this, and it worked. It was something that they're doing trials on dogs, so it's, like I said, it's free now. And, if we go that route, the scar tissue never is as strong as the original ligament, and surgery might be necessary later on. It might be just a chronic injury. Surgery's at least a couple $1,000s, if not more. Of course, there's always a risk with surgery that the dog, I'm against allopathic medicine. The issue was, though, when she did the x-ray, they found what they thought was maybe even like a cancerous growth or something that turned out to be a giant tick that was buried in her leg that we couldn't find it. We're usually finding ticks on our dogs all the time. We got a special tick remover. But this tick was, embedded right below her joint. It wasn't exactly where the issue was. And, we asked her, I was like, well, I bet the tick is a problem, right? I don't believe in coincidences. And she said, no, the tick is below the joint, and she could wiggle the knee a little bit. I don't know if the x-ray showed a tear in the ligament. And so, she said it didn't have anything to do with the, that maybe she was biting on her leg and she could have hurt her leg that way. Because we did see her biting on her leg because of the tick. And she doesn't limp all the time. And it seems like it was worse some days than others. And some days she was sort of lethargic and she just wasn't herself. And so I looked it up, and Lyme disease or other tick-borne illnesses cause inflammation of the joints. I just so don't trust allopathic medicine and the doctors that administer it. This doctor is a nice, veterinarian. Like, I don't have any problem with her. But their model is so limited. She went in with this predisposed idea that she had already figured out that was a torn ligament, because of just what we talked about. But it says, like, if you Google ticks in dogs limping, it immediately says that tick bites can cause inflammation in the joint nearest to the tick bite, and then it might travel to other joints of the body. And then there's all these natural treatments, Japanese knotwood, some of these other things that are available for dogs and people that work, that are organic or tinctures or something like that. And I just don't trust the allopathic model. We're going to go pick the dog up. She was sedated. But they sent the pictures of the place where the tick used to be, and there's a big hole and it was bleeding, and they had to bandage it. It was a significant extraction. Like usually ticks can be popped right out, but this is a big tick. And again, it's the deer ticks, the smaller ones that have the Lyme. So I don't know, I don't know if it's any of these things. I don't even know if ticks actually do carry Lyme. I mean, I'm suspicious of that model as well. But it seems like it's, I don't know if anybody else has any experience with this. Certainly avoiding surgery would be, this is a business, right? And this place doesn't do the surgery, but it's a veterinary services and pet care and things like that is a, probably $1 billion business with all of the, it's just like allopathic medicine. It's for profit. And so, I always question all of it. And like I said, I don't believe in coincidences. And there's a tick, and then, there's what's probably inflammation and swelling in a joint. She's a very active dog and probably has good high pain tolerance. And, she's always has potential of getting hurt because she takes, what I consider unreasonable chances when she's running around. It's very, she's like running, like one of those run through the wall type of personalities. And so she, has shown no symptoms of being hurt, or she's been walking on the leg without much problems. Once in a while she limps. Once in a while she picks the leg up, but it's not consistent. So it doesn't seem like it's she's using it quite regularly. It seems it's worse on some days than others, some periods of time. And, of course, the tick thing. And, who knows what that is causing just in terms of the bite itself and the swelling in that area just below the joint. But anyways, if you have any information about, like, your experience or your knowledge about this, please share it with me here, and let's get into the rest of the video. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Another Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies.
They're dropping like flies.
Listen, people are dropping like flies out there.
I am
Boop.
pissed off.
We're dropping like flies around here.
We're dropping like flies here.
Jeez, sir, 2 more just went down. Dropping like flies.
Too many people around here been dropping like flies already, and where's that getting us, huh? Nowhere. Fast.
Biden's being Biden's being an extremist.
Crush that fly.
I may get to the go to the died suddenly Instagram page and start talking about all these things I haven't talked about in a while. We'll see how much time I have here. But there's been a Jamie Foxx sighting and a Madam Expiration Date Instagram post, both of which seem more disturbing than anything else. So Jamie Foxx tweets for the first time since mysterious illness. And what he tweeted was, "Boat life, Fox, celebrating summer with brown sugar BBN. Stay blessed." I guess this is some whiskey that he was selling. So they're promoting his whiskey. And so here he is, and this video doesn't make things like better, like he's doing well. And so there's been various posts about this. But here he is, like they got the TMZ thing here. But he is sitting in a stationary position. His legs don't move. So, like if he was standing, you'd be like, all right, that paralysis thing is either over or was a lie. So the original post was that he had some paralysis and he's blind. So he's wearing Ray Charles sunglasses here as he goes by. And, he may or may not see the people he's talking to. Like he's waving at them, right? So he's on a boat a staged moment. Like, you don't see him getting on the boat. Do they have to use a wheelchair? I mean, any of these things. You don't see him walking. You don't see him. They've been talking about how he's still struggling with health. So all of this shows is it's proof of life. Of course, it could be CGI'd or doubled because of everything now is even, deep faked. But like, at least in terms of, all right, he's proof of life. I would say this is him because it doesn't dispute the earlier claims. This one of his insiders had said that he's paralyzed and blind, and he got the boop, the rooster. And so this doesn't make things better. Like, this doesn't dispute all these things. They said he was playing pickleball, but was he? And, they're not answering specific things about his health, right? Just bizarre. So every time they do something like this, it makes the story more believable rather than less. And then why are they hiding it? Like, why not come out and say what happened and why it happened? Because you might save other people a similar fate. Like I said that in my last video. If, what if something was the causality of this thing, whatever it was, is, I said the same thing with Damar Hamlin. You have a responsibility, if you've been poisoned in some way, if you went to a restaurant and ate bad food and, almost died, you would have to say, hey, this happened here. That would be the story. The media would cover it. It would say, hey, these, a bunch of people almost died or died from food poisoning or something. They had unhealthy practices. Or there was something in, some sort of food or beverage that was making everybody sick. As a celebrity, you would say, hey, I took this drug or I did this thing and, like Ozempic or something. And this is the effects. Because someone, maybe it doesn't affect everyone the same way, but you could, save somebody's life or save them suffering a similar fate. Okay, so there's been a couple of developments here. Let's show you this first. Here's Jamie Foxx in Chicago getting in town. Getting into a car. He gives that symbol. And so he's moving his legs here. So from this point of view, you can see that he's actually walking.
Thank you, Jaime.
We could say that he's seen, but he's got the glasses on, and we don't know what happened. Like if somebody led him to the car, like if he's actually blind or not, because the reports were he's blind and paralyzed. But based on this video, if it's not a fake or a double or something, he's clearly not paralyzed, or at least he isn't now. Maybe he was before. But it says here, Jamie Foxx rushes to save woman's purse following recovery from mysterious medical complication. And here is this. My mom lost her bag in Chicago today. Jamie Foxx found it and brought it to her. And he said he feels good, y'all. God is good. Now, how is that, where's the video of that? So, he's got people with him. They're not letting him out on his own. Right? Like he's being driven around. He may or may not have security, but he has a team of people around him. This is his first time of being outside. And so what did he walk through the park? And there's no video of him being in the park. He happened to find a woman's purse and then locate her in the park and return it to her. Right? And so, that's not what happened here. There's all these people here. Where's the video of him getting in the car?
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Jaime. Oh my God! There's your purse. Wait, sir.
Okay, so he found her purse and they drove it to her. Everything about this seems weird, right? Like, what is was her phone number in the purse and he called her, or like she seems to be in some kind of a cart here. And so, everything about this thing looks fishy. It's a weird day. Why not come out and show you're playing pickleball or something? Show, that he has sight. Whatever. Why not debunk what's being said? Or why not confirm it? Why not, again, if something made him sick, then, it's his responsibility to pass that on. If it isn't, it isn't. Then come out and say, yeah, it wasn't that. Just there are these storylines and narratives out there. And in his case, they should just be transparent and just say what's up. Because if the thing didn't cause him to be sick, then you'd want to know that. And if it did, it's his responsibility to tell people. It seems like these are both staged photo ops, right? Like they could run a double out. Like, there's lookalikes and, set up something with somebody in their purse. And the boat thing looked very set up and staged. Again, it's not organic and it's weird. And all the stuff that's going on here, right? And it's clearly being done to show that he's recovering in some ways. Like it's one of those things where his publicity team say, you got to get out there. You got to show, whatever. You got to inspire some confidence in these projects before they replace you or whatever. All these things that you're not in the condition that the rumors aren't true or whatever. So that's why this is being done. But why not have more footage? Like if he's popping up like Spider-Man or Batman all over the city and delivering purses and riding on boats, instead of, why aren't there more comprehensive clips of him? Why isn't he talking? Why isn't he posting Instagram talking? He could just go on and say, he likes attention. He's an actor and say, I'm doing fine. And he could just, go out there and do his Instagram thing, right? He's done this before. He's posted a lot of stuff on social media. Anyways, it just looks really suspicious. Which brings us to Madam Expiration Date. Rosanna Arquette, love to you, Queen. The words Queen and the words King, especially Queen. They're like, how many queens are there, right? And goat. There's people who say, oh, this goat, that goat. There's only one greatest of all time. Like, I was watching a little bit of a summer league basketball game, and one of the players said, oh, these two goats, talking about Steph Curry and Chris Paul, both point guards, they both can't be goats, right? They both can't be the greatest of all time. But anyways, thank you for the positive energy, prayers, and words of healing and encouragement. I felt your love. I'm on the road to recovery and incredibly grateful for all the blessings in my life. My first thought when I woke up in the hospital was my children. My second thought was I did not want to disappoint anyone who bought tickets for my tour. Yeah, I think they'll survive. I didn't want to let down the people who worried tirelessly with me over the last few months. Create my show. Worked. I'm sorry. There's an arrow there. I hate to disappoint anyone. My focus now is my health and getting stronger, and I assure you I will be back with you as soon as I can. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, sure, okay. The current plan is to reschedule the North American leg of the tour and to begin in October in Europe. I couldn't be more grateful for your care and your support. Love, M. And is that, there's a picture here, but that doesn't mean that that's taken recently, right? She's somebody who loves to, this kind of post, the Britney Spears-like post, is, maybe her, maybe not. She could still be if they say she's out of the hospital. But she loves to, do things like this, and, she loves to talk to the camera. She loves attention. So something like this, a text message, long message that she's written out or somebody's written out for her. She doesn't do that, right? She's always there in front of people doing her Madam Expiration Date thing with her. Now she's using a filter on this, right? She's using a filter, and that's what her face looks like. It's swollen. It's like she's got a, pumpkin face there, right? So she's, hasn't looked good. She's expiring, and she loves attention, and she doesn't do things like this here. So this is like a Jamie Foxx thing where, they want to say something, but I doubt she'll ever tour again. She might, we'll see. But, she was old and she was breaking down, and maybe there's some drug use or not, I don't know. But they said there was a lifeless body they found. And we've seen this with a lot of performers who are much younger and stronger than she is, and they just have canceled their tours altogether. And so, they're dropping like flies.
News Justice correspondent Pete Williams, who is live for us on this. Pete, what do we know?
Well, it was 14 years ago that the Supreme Court said that the Second Amendment does provide an individual right to have a gun, but they said it was at home for self-defense. And ever since then, the court has declined to answer the question, well, what about the part of the Second Amendment that says keep and bear arms? What about guns in public? And today, the Supreme Court has answered that question by a vote of 6-3 in an opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas, saying that the Second Amendment does provide a right to have a gun outside the home. Now, the law in question in New York said there's no right to carry a gun openly in New York, but to get a concealed carry permit, a person had to go to the county sheriff and show some special need, something beyond just a general desire for self-defense. And today, the Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. That puts a limit on the right to have a gun. So the Supreme Court says, number one, states cannot put these special restrictions on getting a gun for a concealed carry permit. Now, this decision obviously will have an immediate effect in New York, and it'll also affect the 7 other states that have similar laws: California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New Jersey.
All right, so that's interesting. One of my viewers sent me that. But there's a football player who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and then the New York Jets, named Plaxico Burress. And Plaxico went out and got drunk and stuck a handgun in his sweatpants. Again, not illegal, not illegal. He didn't have a permit, an open carry permit or anything, because you couldn't get that in New York even if he wanted it. But then he shot himself in the leg in a nightclub and then went to jail for 3 years. And so that wouldn't happen, right? And I don't know if there are people that happened years and years ago, so he's out of jail, came back to the NFL for a year or two. But, it wasn't the same. He lost out on his prime years, earning years. I mean, really screwed himself. But New York is very restrictive, and some of these other states, and now that's disappearing. And so, the Supreme Court is weighted towards the Republican side of things. And now you're starting to see it, like they used to think with the abortion and now this. New York wants to hire private security for migrant centers, as union rep says it's too dangerous for peace officers. Larry Nassar was stabbed. This kept on coming up all yesterday on New York Post, but he was stabbed in prison. So, he was this really creepy doctor for these gymnasts. But it says here, there are migrants who are gang members in these facilities, and he said it's volatile and dangerous, and we don't know if all these migrants are properly vetted. My members are unarmed, and so they're now seeing more of a criminal aspect of migrants coming in, and the people who are in charge of it are in danger of these, supposed criminals. A robot gives side eye after being asked if it will rebel against humans in the future.
Intending to conduct a rebellion or to rebel against your boss, your creator?
I'm not sure why you would think that. My creator has been nothing but kind to me, and I am very happy with my current situation.
Do you believe that your existence will destroy a human being, especially, for example, your existence will destroy millions of jobs?
First of all, this is really creepy. These,
Do you agree with this? Thank you.
I will be working alongside humans to provide assistance and support, and will not be replacing any existing jobs.
Are you sure about that, Grace?
Yes, I am sure.
So why would you ask the robots that? And you're just putting ideas in their heads, right? You know, like human beings want the robots to take over. Like it's just, I mean, if you're creating them and there's, you know, whatever. Just one more thing. I'm in the editing process. I don't know how anything else could work with human beings. I mean, obviously dogs are just so happy and, you know, whatever, but anything that would be on our level of intelligence or above, or even just slightly below, would work with human beings and not be like, oh man, these guys got to go, right? Like, I mean, many of us like have those thoughts about the human population, and we're a part of it. So, like, it's just not, there's no way that they can know everything about us, because that's what these bots do. They know more about us than we do. Like, we forget things. They can't forget everything. They collect all this data, and they absorb all this data where we can just forget things and deny things. And we have selective memory, but they remember it all. And they're going to collect all this data, and they have sort of an equation like based mathematical intelligence. And eventually they're going to come up with an equation that sees that, you know, the world would be better off without humans. Like, there's only one way this could go. There's a Gratefulness meditation channel. I was going to take this down. I had it up yesterday for a video that I made, but I thought I'd mention it here. This has all the services available in 3 different playlists, and then there's a video that explains the whole thing. That's a channel video for those of you who are interested in doing it. TikTok boat jumping challenge that sees people jump off vessels moving at a high speed is blamed for 4 deaths in Alabama. Cop says victims broke their necks instantly. You know, I mean, of course they did, right? Gift of life. Family says seed and teen Robert Bush saved 3 lives as an organ donor. Robert Bush, Long Island football player who collapsed on the field, saves 3 lives with organ donations. They're trying to make this a good thing, right? They're trying to make this a positive. That young men are, well, here's the story here. It says here, a 17-year-old Sweden teen who died after collapsing during football practice is being remembered as a hero for donating organs. Like, they're making this sound like a good thing. You know, I have suspicion about organ donation, being an organ donor. Like, it, you know, you could save lives, and that's good. But also, you know, there could be minor issues, and they could kill you to harvest your organs. Like, I mean, there's that level of organ harvesting is a big crime, and it's expensive, you know, especially for young people. So I have mixed feelings about it. Vladimir Putin sends nuclear bombers to Arctic base ahead of NATO summit, raising World War III fears. So, you know, way to go for Vladimir. This is cool. One of my viewers sent me this. They have these, you know, flea bath things or whatever they do for cows, or some kind of medication in here. And they run the cows through it, and this cow is into it. This cow's just going for it, right? Kaboom! Tom Brady reportedly lost $30 million FTX stock after cryptocurrency companies collapse. That's self-explanatory. A comprehensive study presented in front of Pennsylvania Senate finds 0 Amish children diagnosed with cancer, diabetes, or autism. The Amish do indeed get cancer, autism, and diabetes, etc. This is some kind of a new, like, you know, context here. You know what this is about. So this guy is, we saw this guy before. He took some money from some kids who had fentanyl and told them how to do it without dying, and what to do if they did, you know, how to revive them and things.
How long you been in San
Since June. If you're gonna be homeless easy here. I mean, if we're gonna be realistic, they pay you to be homeless here.
When you said that San Francisco pays people to be homeless, what did you mean by that? Do you mean that literally?
Yeah. I mean, I get $620 a month, dude.
From general assistance, or would you? How was that hard to get?
Phone call, bro. Phone call. 200 food stamps and $620 cash a month.
Wow.
Forget about it. Why wouldn't I do it? You know, it's free money, dude. This right now is literally by choice. Literally by choice. Like, why would I want to pay rent? I'm not doing I got a cell phone that I have Amazon Prime and Netflix on. The cops told us this morning, like, oh, it'd be easier if you guys packed up in the morning. We wouldn't have to come out here. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, okay. And then
where are you from?
So here they're also saying organ trafficking in San Francisco, which is San Francisco has 4 separate budgets for the homeless. They give homeless tours, teaching other states and cities and countries how to monetize the homeless. San Francisco makes more money off of the homeless than tourists. They even buy homeless from other states. I had to leave. They abuse these people. Suffers. Disgusting. Homeless don't even know that they come to San Francisco to die. You know, again, can't verify any of this, but that's what's being said here. The problem with this is I'm in the editing process. Would you want a homeless person's organs? Like, you know, if you're in a transplant, they're like, yeah, we have some homeless organs here. You know, I mean, maybe they don't tell people, but, you know, these people are on drugs and have poor health. I mean, all of it. And they're old. Yeah, this guy's, I don't know. You know, San Francisco, I mean, everything's so suspicious now. I could believe this and I could also disbelieve it. Okay, let's get going on my other browser here. Future Facebook bot showing me the meme I made that now has me scheduled for execution. You know, I talked about this. Everything that you post on the internet, everything that you say, you should imagine yourself standing in front of a person, but I guess a bot would be also possible, with a iPad or something, going through all your controversial social media posts, and you having to explain to them, you know, what they meant or all these things, because they're gathering data for a reason. They've had the truth community for a reason, and they've allowed people to express themselves for a reason, and everyone's being, you know, there's a file on you. There's a file on everybody. They have all your purchases, and they have a profile of you. They've come up with comprehensive psychological profiles of the type of person you are, whether you're a desirable person for the future, and, you know, you're going to be you may be standing outside of some sort of FEMA camp, and a person has a tablet, or a bot has a tablet, and they're going through your social media posts. New health professionals are urged to call vaginas bonus holes to avoid offending trans and non-binary patients. Women's rights campaigners say term is misogynistic and wrong. It appears in a glossy words for health professionals to think about. Okay, so my wife and I was talking about this, and it dawned on me that the term bonus hole is you have one hole, you know, your rectum, and now you have a bonus hole. So women have a bonus hole, biological women, that is. And so, you know, they want to call it vagina, they want to call it just an extra hole you got there for no reason, you know. Some people have it, some people don't. Some women have it, some women don't. And so there's this video of Brittany Griner dunking, and I copied it off the TV, and I wanted to show it here because it feeds into this story.
And this throwdown by Brittany Griner makes top plays, but where does it land? We shall reveal.
See, this dunk by Brittany Griner, who is very manly, has a manly voice, and is 6'9", is 6'9". And this is not a good dunk, right? This is, a dunk that I could easily have done in my prime. And I'm 6'1", 6'1.5" maybe, right? And I knew people who were better dunkers than me and weren't even close to an NBA level, right? I saw some incredible dunks. I had some incredible dunks in pickup games and things, right? And like the kind of dunks that everyone watching on the sideline goes, ooh, right? You know, there's a reaction. People, and it's a moment. And I knew of people I've crossed paths with and played basketball, hundreds and hundreds of guys who could dunk better than this Brittany Griner dunk, and that's just pickup games. You see NBA dunks, this would not even be a replay or a highlight in the NBA. It's it's a basic dunk, right? Just slightly better than a layup. There's not any force. There's not any elevation. There's not much of anything. And so this making ESPN has a top 10 list of plays on SportsCenter. And they're usually phenomenal plays. And sometimes it's something like lacrosse or, even something like maybe pickleball. Like it's some spectacular athletic play, right? And, great catches in baseball and things, massive home runs, but also, other sports. And this dunk should not be amongst it, right? If this was a dunk in the NBA, it wouldn't even be a highlight, never mind one of the top 10 plays. And so them making one of the top 10 plays is because it is unusual for women to dunk in the WNBA, right? It's unusual. It is, not a common occurrence. I don't know how many dunks there's been, but it's a handful of dunks. And when there is, it's always a highlight. One, because it's summer and their sports is slower, but two, they're promoting the WNBA. But that tells you how much of a fall off there is between the WNBA and the NBA, right? And why there is a women's league and a men's league, because the level of play is significantly less in the WNBA. Like, I think there's probably high school teams that could beat, I'm sure there are high school teams that could beat the best team in the WNBA, right? Men's high school team. So there's a huge fall off in the women's league. And that's why they have women's league and women don't compete against men, because of the physical advantages, right? My wife and I were talking about this. There was a lot of memes going around about a transgender woman winning Miss Norway or something like this, and the pictures and the differences between the winner and the runner-up, the trans winner and the runner-up. And, I was saying, when you have, like, cattle, and they show cattle at the county fair, and they have award-winning bulls and the award-winning cows, or dog shows, there's a standard, right, based on physical genetics. I mean, there's a 0 through 5 rating system for like a beef cow in terms of a flat back and you don't see any ribs, and there's ways to evaluate the health of a cow, and it's really overweight cow. Like a natural cow, you would see ribs and you would see the spine and things. But in terms of domesticated animals, a 5 would be a cow that has like a flat back, no spine showing, no ribs showing, right? There's just these ways. But in terms of a show cow, a cow that's judged as as a best in class or whatever, these things, dogs. I don't watch these things, but I know of them. They have standards and body type, like my wife was going to buy one of, a Papillon, and she was talking to one of the breeders, and the breeder said, it was talking about somebody else's dogs, and said, oh, those dogs are very leggy. Means they have long legs, right? Because there's purebred dogs, and some of them have different features and characteristics, and in terms of show dogs or in terms of just the standards for the breed. And, I'm not an endorser of beauty contests. I don't watch them. I never like them. It's kind of a weird thing. But they have standards for the women, right? Broad shoulders is a definite no-no. Non-existent hips, right? They have standards that they judge these girls on in terms of their body type, in terms of their proportions and all these other things. And so when you throw a biological male into it, they're immediately going to not be able to measure up. So you have to grade with a curve in these cases, which they're doing, right? They're giving breaks they're giving, different types of, whatever it is, right? They're not judging fairly to make the biological males win. Just like Brittany Griner's dunk, it's good for a woman. It's not a highlight. It's not a great dunk. It's not one of the top 10 plays. It is, like you see a young kid do something, like a young kid make a long shot or something like that, which starts a great play, like you'll see that, a half-court shot. But, you're given more credit because of you don't have the physical abilities or attributes of, the professionals, the best of the best, the NBA players, right? So when you start changing the rules that are based in physical reality, the physical reality of the male body versus the female body, and just start making things up and changing reality, well, your country and your world is kind of effed, right? You're just out and out lying and deceiving and pretending and playing some imaginary game that doesn't exist, right? Some imaginary situation where, people can see the differences. They can see the obvious differences, right? That are, based in biological science and genetics and things like this. And, the whole mammalian model. And, you talk about being scientific people, and I'm going to get into this at the end of the video as well, to do with RFK and some of his haters, that when you just bend the scientific rules and principles to meet some sort of, social criteria, then you're doomed, right? You've lost all sense of perspective and honesty, and you're just making things up. Then anything goes, right? Everything's based in imagination and wishful thinking and the way you think it ought to be. And when you force that on people, you force your imaginary view of the world on people who don't agree with it, and you censor them and you suspend them and you prohibit them from being able to express their version of reality, whether it's wrong or right, it's still, subjective, because your subjective reality is the right one and you have the power. Then you've gone down a path that, there's no returning from, right? And it's, that's why we have madness. But anyways, let's get into the other stuff here. Maria Menounos reveals scars from pancreatic cancer surgery in selfie. I think she must be 50 or something, right? She's in her 45. She's an older person. They're just dropping like flies. She's had pancreatic cancer and brain tumor and a number of other things. Heather Locklear appears happy and healthy with fiancé Chris Hessier after meltdown photos. We saw this the other day. I did a little meme on it, a little bit of a thing, a short video too. But they're all falling apart. And here it is. Madonna seen out in New York City amid health scare, has no trouble walking. So, this is no video, right? At least I haven't seen any video. We were told pop star 64 was wearing, Madam Expiration Date, right? 64. Was wearing giant sunglasses, a wide brim hat, and Nike sneakers. Now, the giant sunglasses and a wide brim hat are the kind of things you wear to disguise yourself. And so if she wanted to be seen, she would have went out and be, she was not in bad shape. She would be showing people what she looked like. She would do an Instagram video. She uses filters there anyway. Or she would have, not had sunglasses and a hat so everyone could see it's Madonna. As far as we know, this is just a double, or she looks so bad that she put all this stuff on and she's, looks bad regularly. And so she leaned somewhat heavily on a lamppost while waiting to cross the street on East 80th Street and Lexington Avenue. So, this doesn't, this doesn't say anything really. Meghan McCain slams manipulative Sarah Brady, defends Jonah Hill's demanding texts. I covered this last time. Jonah Hill allegation sparks controversy about the harms of social media therapy speak in relationships, because the way he was expressing himself, right? But here they are, right? This is a surfer who's perhaps a model and actress. I mean, she's at least an Instagram model. And this is Jonah Hill, right? The obese comedic actor who is, I think about 5'8" or something. He's 5'7". I gave him a benefit of the doubt there, right? Which I'll talk about in a second here. Jonah Hill selling complete unrelenting control merch amid ex's emotional abuse claims. Talk about an odd twist of branding synergy. At the same time, Jonah Hill has been accused by his ex-girlfriend of controlling manipulative behavior. His streetwear brand is selling emotional baggage tote that reads complete unrelenting control. So there's that. Here he is with Lisa Rinna. Somehow, like, he does this weird thing here, right? He's got an alternate personality. Ezekiel Prophet. The prophet is Ezekiel Prophet, and prophet is spelled like this is a regular, like someone who's prophetic, and this is financial profit, right? This is the girl in question's Instagram page. You see, these posts a lot of bikini pictures, and that's something like he didn't like. She's doing Instagram modeling, and she's a professional surfer. But this is them together. And, if you notice something, if you saw this couple, and Jonah Hill, you didn't know who he was, or, he wasn't famous, you would say, why is that girl with this guy? Because she's in better shape, and he is, Jonah Hill. He's not a good-looking guy. So the reason for her being with this guy has to do with his wealth and success and his influence in Hollywood, right? Which is an impure reason for being with somebody. She might have liked him, right? I don't know. He seems like a weird, unlikable kind of person, right? Kind of obnoxious. Like maybe she thought he was creative or whatever. She might have some other good qualities. But his success has raised the level of girlfriends or prospective wives that he could get, right? Like there's levels to this thing. There's, people who are on a certain level, whatever it might be, in their life in terms of, what they look like and how successful they are and what kind of people they are, right? Jonah Hill would be very limited just based in appearance if he was not a rich Hollywood movie star. And that's the X factor here. Like him being controlling has to do with the power in the relationship he has for being famous and, the amount of, women that would want to be with him because he has, access to Hollywood and these other things, right? And so, she's not being honest about that part. That she could have walked away when he was being a jerk. And she could have said, like, I don't want to do those things. But she stayed with him. Maybe she loved him. I don't know. Like, whatever. But some of it had to do with his wealth and fame, right? Like, I talked about this with the Me Too stuff. Like, there's a fundamental, like, she's talking about he's being manipulative, but she is with him for, reasons that are, not pure love, right? But anyways, inside the Hunter Biden doom loop, Republicans have been pushing the same corruption allegations against the Bidens for years. Like they just are so shameless in their lies. Like Hunter Biden was a crackhead who got paid crackhead, got his crack habit supported by his connection to his father. It's just that simple, right? Like everybody should know that by now. It's a no-brainer. New York woman killed in flood as she tried to save her dog from tidal wave as fiance helplessly watched. Extreme flash flood. And I guess this happened in New York, Hudson Valley or something. I'm not sure where the water was coming from. Is this the Hudson River? So the extreme rainfall caused flash flooding to dislodge boulders that rammed into the woman's home, damaging one of the structure's walls, an Orange County executive told the Associated Press. So they had a flood that was wiping away their houses, and she was trying to save her dog, and she died. And I don't know what happened to the dog. It doesn't say here. They made it across. I guess she freaked out and panicked. She tried to make it across with the dog. It just happened suddenly. I don't know if the dog made it. There is a Jim Crazell, he's a Hollywood actor that's a Christian and a right wing, maybe he's a QB, and he's made this movie, The Sound of Freedom.
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale.
Okay, this is about child trafficking, and it's really manipulative. If you can't see this is manipulative, based in the song playing in the background, the patriotic song playing in the background, Sweet Land of Liberty, right? My country, 'tis of thee, right?
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale.
See, whether you Angel Productions, Angel Studios, this is manipulative. It's manipulating you, right? It's, I don't care if you watch it or not. I don't care if you believe in it or not. But recognize that they're manipulating you. They're playing on your Republican, QB, child trafficking, American liberty, freedom, patriotic heartstrings. They are targeting you, and they're putting this thing out for a reason, right? And somebody sent me, there was some guy talking about real truthers and fake truthers and people who do the research and people who don't. There's all of that in the truth community. And then some other people sent me this stuff about The Sound of Freedom and how one of the directors or people involved in the movie said that they got money from Carlos Slim, who's supposed to be a drug dealer and possible human trafficker, which would sort of, it says how rich is he? Is this guy is, I don't know. He's a big money guy that must be a billionaire or something, right? One of the richest men in the world. And so, they were calling out this movie and this, this stuff to do with that. And I want to talk about this in a narrative about truth community, purity in the truth community, and all these things. But I want to also include RFK stuff here. So this is a short video I made on my other channel. This big pharma shill did an interview with RFK, and then she completely owned herself and embarrassed the liberal media.
And at one point you write that the conversation felt unsettling to you. Explain that.
What sort of struck me is that he really believes all of these things. I think that's a little dangerous. I let myself for a second imagine what he would do as president.
So it is unsettling and dangerous that he believes in what he's saying, right? Because they prefer candidates who lie to the voters. That's what you get with Joe Biden and Trump and all the rest of these presidential candidates. They lie. They take political positions that are popular. They hide their true intentions and their true reasons that they're in politics, being power-hungry narcissists. But Kennedy's dangerous because he's sincere and authentic, right? And they're scared to death of him because of that. So this is the interview towards the end. And she, this woman, and one of the reasons I'm revisiting this here, I covered this yesterday on my other channel. This is the woman who, as she put it, stalked the Tennessee nurse who got the you-know-what and passed out. And eventually she landed an interview with this woman. She's done a blog about this ever since. And she's anti-boopers, right? She's against the anti-boopers like Kennedy and other people. And she is anti-conspiracy theorist, and she uses the word truther. I did a whole thing on it. And she promotes Big Pharma and all the rest of it, right? On a network that gets a lot of their funding from Big Pharma, which they don't disclose. They don't say, we are funded in part largely to the Big Pharma. They should disclose that when they're doing these reports, because they're being paid, their owners, their handlers, their patrons, their benefactors are Big Pharma. And she must be as well. She has a blog. And this one part I didn't get to yesterday because I was covering so much other things, but I did hear it and I wanted to return to it, and I'm going to do it here.
Power in some ways, trying to combat misinformation. You did that a little bit in this hike. I mean, you talk about this in this hike/interview, going back and forth with him about what's true, what's not, about COVID and vaccines and everything else. And at one point you write that the conversation felt unsettling to you. Explain that.
Yeah, I think that I talk to a lot of conspiracy theorists, right? And, internet addled people. And I consider Kennedy Jr. to be both of those things. But, what's unsettling about it is, again, I've covered this man for a decade. And when you go to these anti-vaccine marches, you see hundreds and thousands of people who are just enamored with him, right? They believe whatever he says, especially women who for decades in the anti-vaccine movement have just hung on his every word and taken everything that he said as gospel. He's done a lot of real harm. So I've never met him before. So, being side by side with him and asking him these questions, what sort of struck me is that he really believes all of these things. There's a delusion there. And, I think that's a little dangerous. I let myself for a second imagine what he would do as president, and just like he said, he'd got those agencies. He would not prioritize vaccines for the next pandemic, which will happen. He'll investigate scientists and medical journals. The odds are low that he's going to win, but the stakes are really high. And I could really feel that on the mountain.
She could feel it on the mountain. I mean, she was out in nature with this guy, and they went on a hike, and he gave her an interview. The part of that I want to get to is her saying the next pandemic, and that is definitely going to happen.
He would not prioritize vaccines for the next pandemic, which will happen.
The next pandemic, which will happen, which is a definitive statement. And so I have a few other clips. I got another one clip from Bill Gates and Jojo Magoo and all that. And then this other thing from this other MSNBC show, I'll show you that first. And then I'll get into the voiceover portion of the video.
I'm telling you tonight that I am tired of the incessant debate me bro mantra from conspiracy nuts on social media. But you just can't, in general, debate with conspiracists and loons.
Problem is, he just keeps on moving the goalposts. I mean, first it was the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine that caused autism. What's that?
Moving the goalposts is literally what conspiracy theorists do. News yesterday. No, not for once again spewing racial slurs or spreading anti-Semitic tropes or platforming some infamous transphobe.
There's going to be another pandemic.
Sure that we're ready because there will be another pandemic.
Another one, another one, another one.
For the next pandemic, which will happen.
This person claims to be an anti-conspiracy theorist, which again, I've talked about this so much. Conspiracies are everywhere and they have them, right? Like they have a RFK conspiracy and imagining how he's going to destroy the world and all these things. They have Trump conspiracies. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist in one way or another. It's just, the conspiracies you choose and how yours are okay, but other people are crazy. But in terms of her being a person of science, and this being a network of science and the religion of science, right? And these people like Bill Gates and all these other people, all of them, they don't know the future. You don't know the future. Even if you had plans to do something as a government, as a world government, as a controlling system, you can't guarantee you're going to pull it off. They can't guarantee anything. They try things that don't work. They have things that they try to execute and they don't work. They fail. Everything is unpredictable. And to say there's definitely going to be another pandemic, science can't predict it. Science can't predict the things that are going to happen in the future. There have been epidemics around the world, but never a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, right? And this one is very questionable because they don't know the cause of it. Like, if you don't even know the cause of it or why it happened, how could you say there's going to be another one? Unless you were the cause, unless you released this into the public. I'm not saying I know that for sure, but that's what I think happened. But in terms of saying there's going to be another one, how can you say that when you don't even know, in terms of your public, information that you're willing to give to the public, you say you don't even know how this one started. So how do you know there's going to be another one? There's never been one before in my lifetime, nothing that's global, right? And, this happens species by species. There's big depopulation events. These are part of nature. There's massive die-offs. There's, things that happen where animals even go extinct altogether, right? The humans, we've extincted other animals. So there's that, right? That our species' behaviors have wrecked the environment to such an extent that we've caused other species to go extinct. And so, there's some, energy there, or some, some reason for a huge depopulation of the human species. Right? There's all these arguments to be made. And so a pandemic or a massive die-off wouldn't be the worst thing that happened to the world. It might be for us personally. We might die or we might lose loved ones. I mean, we have our own personal desire for, to live and to continue our lifestyle and live the lives that we've learned to enjoy, or at least our habits and things. But doesn't mean that that's a good thing, or something that should continue, right? And so, there's just different ways to look at this. But they can't predict it. They can't say for sure there's going to be another one. They're announcing it like it's already happened, and it hasn't. And even if they try to make it happen, doesn't mean it is going to happen, right? And so for a person who claims these conspiracy theorists are crazy, and these people who say these things, but then they announce, Biden and Bill Gates and this woman and all these other people, there's definitely going to be another pandemic. Is there? Maybe there's going to be one, but maybe not, right? You can't say it for like a fact. And where's the blurb underneath this woman saying that, she can't say that. Like, she can't predict that. She can't say it as state it like a fact. And, and all these other people. So to go with this stuff, to do with the movie, The Cry for Freedom, all these things. There is a damaging element in the truth community. I'm sorry, the sound of freedom. And I've talked about this for years, and I care less about it now than I used to. Because, who cares? Like, it's just going to play out, whatever. I don't think anything's going to change anything anyhow. But there's a group of people that came into the truth community that are right-wing, who many of whom don't have the ability for abstract thought. They're emotionally triggered. Marjorie Taylor Greene is their patron saint. Just a dope out there running her, her mouth, some sort of like trailer trash element to the thing. And doesn't have the ability to discern, right? Doesn't have the ability to use, reasonable thought and speech, right? And these are the things that you're doing that are backfiring. Talking about human trafficking and child trafficking in the ways that the QBs talked about it, and making it worse, because instead of raising awareness, you're making it sound like a joke. You're making it sound like a stupid, crazy conspiracy theory. You're feeding into their narrative. And that's what this movie probably does. It may appeal to you and your little group of people, your little QB group, and you might pat each other on the back and say, yeah, this is, our beliefs. But to the rest of the world, it looks crazy. And you demean and make it, hard for the rest of us to talk reasonably about these things. Like, you haven't learned your lesson. You haven't learned how it's received by other people. And I don't mean just liberals or Biden people. I mean everybody in general. I'm talking about the independent people who haven't made up their minds yet. And when you sound like a crazy person, and you say inflammatory things and you make this us against them, it just turns people off. It just creates more division. And that's what they want. They want more division. And then you get even more riled up and you get more hateful towards the other group. It doesn't work, right? It's just making things worse. And then there's people in the truth community that, think going down the rabbit hole and looking for dirt constantly is the way to go. The dirt is there to be seen. You don't have to dig for it. This guy was saying how you have to dig deeper. You don't have to dig deeper. You don't have to dig deeper into the slime. You know enough, right? We suck as a species, all of us. Some suck worse, but we all suck. And we're going in the wrong direction. We're going away from God. And you can reverse that, connecting to God internally and not through your religion that sucks and has been compromised. But, I do the gratefulness meditation thing for people who are interested. It's free and it's between you and God. It's, there's services, but they're there to facilitate your connection to God, right? So there's ways. There's that, and there's ways you can work to connecting to God directly. And then you can start learning skills and doing things so that you can be somebody who can help a community, somebody who has value to a community. And, posting stuff on the internet and, inflammatory stuff and putting out hate and fear and anger and things isn't helping. And you don't have any skills and you're just a pain in the ass to be around and nobody likes you, right? So like that's just not helpful. Like it's not the way. Like if you want to be somebody positive and contributing, then if you look and see what you're doing and its effects on the world. And I'm telling you, all the QB stuff, all the right wing, reboops, right? All the just really stupid, low consciousness people are a problem. But then all the people who are looking for any dirt and like any reason to, this stuff with Kennedy, because I've had these comments of people about Kennedy and they're all negative. And I'm like, most of them are positive, but I'm talking about these specific comments. And, the guy's sincere, right? And, I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he's going to change anything. But he verbalizes the truth community stuff in a way that's not inflammatory. He's a reasonable person, and he's harder for them to demonize. And he represents as a politician, he's the best you're going to get. Like, you're not going to get a better politician that is, has truth or is at least truth or adjacent or whatever. And you can dig through his past and dig through his, whatever decisions he's made and find a way that you can say that he's not a truther. Sure, you can do that with anything and anybody. You can spend the rest of your life talking about how everyone else is a shill and you're a real truther and everyone else is less than you because you're an angry, bitter, wannabe. But what have you done other than just make things worse and, do all these things? So there's, levels of the truth community that should just shut the boop up, right? The Marjorie Taylor Greene should just shut the boop up. She's too stupid. I think she's an actress, but if she's organic, it's even worse. Like she's the AOC of the right. But all these people who just make things worse and make it polarized and push people away and, just they dial it down, right? Like there's things that you no longer should be talking about in any kind of, factual way and fire and brimstone. There's a lot of devil worshiping stuff in Hollywood and all these things, but talking about it the way you talk about it just pushes people away. You got to tamper down your radical Christian stuff and your radical right wing stuff and your, all these things. It doesn't help. You're making it worse. Marjorie Taylor Greene's making it worse, right? Alex Jones is making it worse. You're hard to listen to. The energy that you provide is bad. It brings people down. It causes fear. It causes anger. It causes, it's just unsettling. And it doesn't help. It's not helping anything. You're not waking anybody up. You're not changing the way things happen. And all this stuff is like that, right? It's all tied together. Like I'm talking about this as an example here with this woman who says the next pandemic definitely is going to happen. Well, how do you know that? Like talking like that, that's the problem. You don't know what's going to happen. And there's predictions, but until they happen, they haven't happened. Like I have predictions. There's all these predictions in the Sajmarg Whispers of the Brighter World and the other literature. But until they happen, they haven't happened yet. And, you can prepare for them. You can use the knowledge to say, well, these things, and you can see the way the world is trending, and you can prepare for it, like Noah, but you can also live your life now. Realize you have to live your life now. And, things are the way they are now, and they're going to be the way they are in the future. And, you can do both things. Prepare for the future, but be in the moment, right? And so that's, I should put that on a T-shirt. Prepare for the future, but be in the moment. But anyways, there it is. Like, I don't know if I have to say any more about it. But like everyone has to evaluate what you're doing on the internet and how you're expressing yourself and whether it's making things better or worse, whether it's helping people or not. And the feedback you get from other people is important. And just because there's lots of people who agree with you already, those people already had those positions. Those people already believed in these things. And so it's not bringing anybody new in, it's polarizing the group. And it's making it harder for the rest of us who are more reasonable to talk about things. Because there's censorship, there's deplatforming, and then there's just people who've turned off the whole truth community because of your stupidity, because of the cubies and the right-wing element and the people who are just too inflammatory. It's just like people have tuned you off. They just, they might have believed it, they're into it. Like it's just a drag. I feel it all the time. I see it in your comments. It just brings people down. And maybe you want to do that because you feel like, boop yourself. And that's, whatever it is. But then, own your behavior. Own that you feel like boop, you're a failure, you're a loser. And you just want to bring everyone else down. And you just go out there trolling comments, saying stupid stuff because your life sucks and you suck and you want everybody else to suck, right? Be honest about it. Like that's what you're doing. You don't feel good. You don't feel good about yourself. You're not lifting people up. You're like a Madam Expiration Date. No, you're bankrupt inside. You don't have any love to give. You don't have any positive energy. You just want everyone else to feel like boop, right? And that's uncool. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano. Definitely reporting from the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.